How's it hanging, everybody? So today we're talking once again about Fantasian. This is a game that dropped on Apple Arcade about 2 months ago. I initially got on here and gave you guys my first impressions, and now I'm back to dive a little deeper into it. I finished my playthrough, finally, of the first half of the game. And the second half of the game is not yet available. It's going to be coming sometime later this year. We don't know for sure, sounding like maybe fall, maybe even later in the year, like the end of the year. We just don't know for sure. So, of course, in my opinion, sooner the better, because it's a little bit awkward to have, you know, a JRPG playthrough broken up by like 6 months or more. That's just not ideal. You know, you really want to be able to kind of grind through these games and get in and out of them without breaking that up and having too much time in between. So I'm hopeful that it comes soon, but you know, no telling there. But I want to talk about this game and the overall significance, the overall impact, and just talk about sort of what this game means for JRPG nostalgists. So as I mentioned, and as everyone's, you know, everybody, the few people who are talking about this game have mentioned the same thing, and that's that this is an Apple Arcade exclusive. You can only play this on Apple devices. Hironobu Sakaguchi, the Final Fantasy creator who created this game with his studio Mistwalker, he was approached by Apple, and this game was conceived as, you know, a collaboration between Apple and Mistwalker in the form of Apple Arcade and Fantasian. The game exists because Apple has a producer credit and came in to kind of fund it and make it happen. How much they funded, what kind of contract they have exactly with Sakaguchi, I don't know. I don't know if anybody really has that information other than Sakaguchi and Apple, but we don't know exactly what the arrangement is. So, of course, the hope is that Fantasian will come to consoles and to PC and stuff like that, because that's where the nostalgia is, or that's where the JRPG nostalgists are. They want to play their games on a console or the Nintendo Switch or their PC. They don't necessarily want to play through it on an Apple device. In fact, I think that many eye rolls occurred when it was discovered that this is a game that people want to play but ultimately may not end up playing because of the platform exclusivity. Look, I know the deal, especially here in the West. You know, people who are going to gravitate more towards JRPGs, classically themed JRPGs, are not necessarily going to be like your average AirPod wearing Apple user. They're not going to be Apple fanboys. They're not necessarily even going to have an iPhone. Like, there's a lot of Android users kind of in the geek community, which I think is what this community is, especially here in the West. So this is a little bit of a quandary for a lot of people, and I kind of want to talk about that and address that and ultimately give you guys my recommendation on what to do if you are a JRPG nostalgist and you're looking at this game and wondering if it's something that you really should be playing. Should you really be going out of your way to get access to an Apple device? I'll try to answer those questions, and of course it's not that easy, but I can say that this game is very good. It is very good, and I would say that if your hang up is that you don't want to play this on your phone, or you don't want to play this on your MacBook or your Apple TV because that's just not where you like to play games, then I would say my advice to you would be swallow your pride. You're not going to be, you know, committing some form of self-sabotage if you play this one game on your phone. I will also say that having gone through 20 hours of this game, my playthrough, I played it in all kinds of different ways. I played it on my TV, by kind of hooking my iPad up to my TV with a cable, which worked pretty well, oddly enough. And I played with, you know, a PlayStation 4 DualShock controller, and it was fine. It felt good. Felt like I was just playing a console game. But then, I'll be very honest with you, when I started kind of leaning more into the phone and iPad aspect of the game, when I started putting more and more hours in on the iPad, I actually enjoyed my time on the iPad more, because this is a very expertly made like cross-platform game, and it works extremely well on mobile. You can tell that it was made with mobile in mind. Now, you can still play the whole game with a controller, and you're not really missing anything. But with the iPad or with even a phone, you're getting easier traversal. You're getting, better fine-tuning in the battles, and you're just the overall experience is, in my opinion, a little better. Of course, it's nice to have a big screen in front of you, but if you don't mind having a smaller screen and experiencing it that way, there are some big bonus points to be had, and that's ultimately how I recommend playing the game. Do I think this game is worth playing if you just have an iPhone and that's it? I absolutely do, and that's coming from somebody that doesn't play very many mobile games. I mean, I mess around, I dabble, and I am an Apple Arcade subscriber even before Fantasian, but that's really just to kind of mess around. I mean, it's a really cheap service, and there might be an interesting title that comes in eventually, and there's plenty of games that wind up on other platforms, and I use Apple Arcade as almost like a way to demo games that I may want to go elsewhere and play. So it's worth it to me to just pay the $5 a month and see what's out there on Apple Arcade and see the new stuff coming in. But do I spend a lot of time playing mobile games? I really don't. I mean, my play time is mostly, like probably most of you or many of you, on consoles and on PC. That's where I spend most of my time with gameplay. But I think there's another important part of this conversation. And that is that, as I mentioned, this game is made by the Final Fantasy creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi. He's broken off from Squaresoft or Square Enix, and he is doing his own thing now. He has his own studio, Mistwalker. He's been focused on mobile games for whatever reason. But this game right here, Fantasian, it is a passion project of his. It is kind of like a swan song, because we have reason to believe that this is going to be Sakaguchi's final game. And this, for all intents and purposes, this is a Final Fantasy game. This is a Final Fantasy game spiritually and functionally, if not technically, because it doesn't actually bear the Final Fantasy name. It doesn't have chocobos and it doesn't have moogles, but it has just about everything else. And I can draw a pretty easy parallel here, and that's with Bloodstained. There's a guy, Koji Igarashi. He created Castlevania Symphony of the Night back in the 1990s for the original PlayStation, and he went on to create other similar games to that in the Castlevania series on the DS and the Game Boy Advance. And that is Bloodstained is his project that came after Castlevania Symphony of the Night and after all those other games. He went off, he broke from Konami, and he started his own studio, and he started making Bloodstained games. Now, it's no big secret that Bloodstained is Castlevania. It is 2D platforming with a whip in the Metroidvania genre. For all practical purposes, this is Castlevania. We all know what's going on. Similarly, Fantasian is a Final Fantasy game. It just is. It comes from the originator of the series. It was directly inspired by his own entries in the series. I think he mentioned that he was specifically inspired by his playthrough of Final Fantasy VI, and this game was an attempt by him to get back to his roots and create something that's kind of, like I said, a passion project. And this game is a nostalgia bomb because it draws from that kind of sweet spot, that range of Final Fantasy games like 7 through 9. If that's your sweet spot for Final Fantasy games, then this game right here, Fantasian, is something you should absolutely have your eye on. Whether you decide to play it or not is maybe another story, but you should at least be thinking about this game. You should be aware of this game because it is absolutely significant. I mean, this is coming from perhaps the most influential figure in the JRPG genre, Hori Sakaguchi, and it is his swan song, and it's a beautiful game. It's a great, let me say it's a very good game. It may fall just short of like greatness, and that leads me into my next topic. Do I think that this game is an essential JRPG? with all the things we just talked about when we talk about the legacy of Sakaguchi, when we talk about what this game could mean for JRPG nostalgists, do I think it's an essential title? I don't. I think it falls just short of being essential. But, I mean, if you are a hardcore JRPG fan, if you revere the work of Sakaguchi, then you can make up your own mind whether or not this is something you absolutely have to play. I loved the game, but a lot of the reason I loved the game, I think, is because I have that, I have that nostalgia in me for the classic titles, and this hits a lot of those high notes, and it plays really beautifully on the platforms that it was built for. Again, hopefully it comes elsewhere, but for now, it's stuck where it's stuck. Luckily, it works really well. Another question is, if you want to play this game, if you're interested in this game, do I think that it's worth tracking down an Apple device if you're an Android user? If you don't have access in your life to an iPhone or any other Apple product on which you can play this game, should you track something down? Should you buy like a used Apple TV? Should you, buy a new Apple product just to play this game? For me, the answer is no. I don't think you should go out of your way to get. This is not exactly a platform seller. A platform seller. This is not exactly, a system seller, as they would say in the video game space. This is a very good game. It's very nostalgic, but you can live without it. You can live without this game if you're even a very big fan of the genre of the classic games and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I recommend it. I recommend that you check it out, but do I think that you should be paying hundreds of dollars to buy an Apple device? No. If you are going to do that, though, you don't need something brand new for this game. If your girlfriend has an old iPhone that's sitting in a drawer and it's been there for a year, you can dust off that iPhone and you can play this game on it. And that's what I would recommend. Be practical if you're going to have to look for an Apple device. Another potential way to do it is to just, pick up, if you're going to do it, pick up like maybe a used Apple TV, because those are, by far the cheapest option out there for playing this game. And they're also the most kind of traditional, because you play it essentially exactly like a console game. You play it on a TV with an Xbox controller or a DualShock 4 controller or whatever. You sync that up, you play it, and then it feels exactly like a console game. And for many of you, that's what you want anyway. So the Apple TV, I mean, you could probably get a used Apple TV that can play this game for, I think like maybe $100, like $120, something like that. You can buy a new Apple Arcade game, you can buy a new Apple TV for like maybe $150. And I don't necessarily think you should do that, but if you just insist on buying an Apple device to play this game, then Apple TV's probably the way to go. But anyway, don't be scared of the platform. If you have access to one of these devices, I absolutely recommend that you play this game for any JRPG nostalgist. If you don't have a device, then I would, you can prioritize this however you want. My thing is, as much as I liked the game, I just don't think it's essential considering all of the other good kind of nostalgia bomb JRPGs there are out there to play and experience. I mean, we've got Octopath Traveler, we've got I Am Setsuna, and a whole spectrum of other games that do a similar thing. I think that this game perhaps does it a little better. So, make up your own mind. You've heard my recommendations here. You've heard my advice. I will add one extra thing, though. If you choose to play this game, I would play it later. I would not play it now because it's not done. The game is not finished. So if you're going to play this game, just wait until the rest of the game is available for you to play. That way you can play it all in one sort of playthrough session, if you will. You don't have to break up the playthrough into, two parts. And I recommend that because, again, I just don't think it's an ideal thing to play a JRPG one half and then wait 6 months and then play the other half. It's just not, it's not a great thing. So that's my advice to you. And so I'm interested, do any of you out there, have you played this game? Are you interested in this game? Did this video help you in any way decide how to prioritize this and potentially play it yourself? I'm interested to hear all of these things. Also, do you love the work of Sakaguchi? That's another important question. I'm interested to hear from you guys. So let me know all of these things, and take it easy. That's all for this one.